Luana from eQuilter.com, and I'm back again to tell you about some of the beautiful colors that I saw that were so inspiring in Italy recently. The thing that always hits you when you're in Italy is just the color and the layers of history and the patina that comes off of the artwork and the metal and the cobblestones and then the colors that the people are wearing in front of all of these very aged historic colors. So I've gathered here some of the colors that really impressed me when I was in Italy this time. The colors that I'm going to put down here are on a background of gray, and that's because the streets and many of the buildings are a dark historic gray. This is a little ceramic piece with a map and kind of an embossed and raised map of Italy, and you can see there's a lot of color on a dark blue background, and that's a great example of what I was talking about in my previous video with Seattle, about how colors can really take on a life of their own if they're on top of the correct background color. So here I've gathered some colors together that I'm recalling from the trip were most inspiring to me. What I remember the most from this last trip are the purples, the lilacs, the mauves, the deep eggplants, the misty tones, but also the bright crocus purples that so many people were wearing this early spring. And these are some of the colors, and again, you can just see that on this particular gray background, they look so beautiful. Not every color can stand up to this background. Now, as I begin to pull in some other colors here, like this bright plum berry color, this beautiful hyacinth, and then this rich sort of olive mossy green. Not every green could go with these colors, but this particular shade, they all start to vibrate together. One of the colors that you see is kind of a terracotta color, and I've heard people say that the Italians love to paint their buildings orange. I would call it more of a peachy terracotta color, and there are infinite shades of that. Light, dark, bright, not so bright. But here are some of the colors that I remember from the trip. And from this terracotta peach to this kind of sandy yellow and this very rich, what I would call a maple brown. And I just pulled out a few other fabrics to show you how these colors go together. Here's another way to think about color, and that is to bring in black and white with some of these rich jewel tone colors. Now, when you lay this black and white on this gray background, it takes on a completely different look. And look as I begin to lay colors next to it. See what happens? I'm going to lay down a rich ruby red, a very royal looking red, and a jewel tone teal. And I think some of this terracotta, just because that's such a typical color that you see in Italy. And then you'd have the option of bringing in some of these unusual fabrics. But see, there's a completely different feel when you put in the black and white. One of the things I really loved when I was in Florence was the tiny little bookbinder shops that have beautiful marbled handmade paper. And you go into these tiny little alley type shops where you can barely turn around and see anything. They're very dark, and there are these little jewels, these little treasures of handmade paper. And this is an old Paula Nadelstern fabric that I had in my stash. And of course we're always picking up marbled fabrics that are similar to this. But this is one I just pulled out that really went with all of these colors that I'm putting together. So that Florentine influence, I think, is what's going to come out in this particular combination that I'm working on. Okay, so now for me, this is a pleasing color combination. This is along the lines of what I'm trying to create. But I'd now like to bring in some of this pastel batik packet. I've got it sitting in front of me. There are a lot of great colors, but I want to pick things that will go with this color story that I have developing here. So I hope you've enjoyed this tour of Italy today and the colors that I love so much. I hope that my passion for travel and art and design, and especially color, perhaps will inspire you to start a new project, but maybe you'd like to join us on some of our trips. I'm going on a Mediterranean cruise this fall to Rome and Sicily and Nice and Barcelona and some points in between. And next January we're going to the Tokyo Quilt Festival in Japan on a 10-day tour. So perhaps you'd like to join me on some of those tours and we can talk about color together. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.